Agriculture was the key development in the rise of the sedentary human civilization, whereby farming of domesticated species created food surplus. It encompasses crops and livestock. It has gone beyond the mundane method of farming. I mean, technology has taken over, but how many Nigerians are leveraging on this technology? The FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, has said that youth involvement in agriculture will help to address food insecurity in the country. He said this in Abuja at the 2023 edition of the Italian cuisine in the world themed at the table with Italian cuisine well-being with taste. Wiki also was represented by the Minister of State of FCT, Hajia Maria Mahmood. She said agriculture development would birth more collaboration and partnership with other countries. Also, the United Nations and World Food Programme have recently alerted that up to 6.5 million Nigerians will go hungry next year. This is largely from among the citizens in Sokoto, Adamawa, Borno, and Zamfara State. Food is a major challenge in Africa. How can we avert this looming hunger? I mean, we have a guest in the studio. His name is Ibrahim Maigari Amadu, joining us virtually to make meaning out of this. Ibrahim Maigari is a lawyer. He's a tech entrepreneur. He's the founder, CEO of Arise Africa. He's a tech-driven agriculture optimizing platform connecting smallholder farmers in Africa. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, good morning. So this thing said by the United Nations that in next year there will be hunger in Nigeria, in most of these major cities, Sokoto, Adamawa, Borno, and Zamfara State. And these cities actually also they make produce. Should we say this is because of the insurgency in most of these cities by Boko Haram? What could be the reason for that?
Well, I'm not a soothsayer. I don't want to be Nostradamus in this context. But if you ask me, I will tell you things are improving from the security perspective compared to years back. A lot of farmers now are having access to their farmlands. They are going back to farms. And we're quite hopeful that the years to come, or probably next year, is going to be more bountiful than the current year. I don't know the basis of the statistics. I don't know the baseline surveys that they made. Maybe it was probably due to some other reasons, but I don't want to join issues with statistics. I'm a practical person that's on the field, and I know what we are going through in terms of access to farmlands and stuff. And of course, there are challenges.
Yeah.
And I know this program is going to avail us the opportunity to deep dive into why there's rising food security, insecurity, not only in Nigeria, but all across Africa. And if we are going to solve that problem, we need to have a more holistic approach than just picking one or two bits and pieces of the solutions. Yeah.
Okay. So how do you perceive the current state of agricultural technology adopted in Nigeria and Africa at large?
Yeah, I would tell you Nigeria is doing very well. The convergence of agriculture and technology, which is virtually called now agri-tech, is taking shape properly in Nigeria. Is digital solutions are coming into the agri space. Nigeria is doing very well. In our case, we started in Nigeria a couple of years ago, but we've expanded our solution now to the East African coast. We're in Tanzania now, and we're about to expand into Rwanda. And that's basically a Nigerian win, because what we've started and perfected as a model in Nigeria is also solving problems in other parts of Africa. So yeah, agri-tech is taking shape, is taking up. But what I always tell people is that technology is an enabler. Technology is not the be-all, the do-all. Technology is simply development to make it easy or make it easier for our farmers to fulfill their mandate in the fields. Because most of farmers in sub-Saharan Africa, what most people don't understand is most farmers in sub-Saharan Africa are not tech savvy. They're not really interested in becoming you and I that will now be using a smartphone up and down. No, what they want is how does technology make it easier for us in precision agriculture, as in real tech like mechanization, as in having access to spraying of chemicals via drones, which gives them more precision in terms of the how effective it is, and so on. Technology in harvesting, how do you use mechanized harvesting, technology in saving post-harvest losses and stuff like that. Not technology for the sake of being rara as in technology. So like I said, technology is an enabler, and it's working very well in our continent.
All right, so I do understand that you have a background in law, but then you went into farming. That's impressive, I must say. Now, let me ask you this. Now, we do know that in 2022, also in 2019, rice farmers in Nigeria had the worst of time, especially around September time, when floods washed off, acres of land. Rice farms were washed off by flood. And this affected the availability of rice. Rice, of course, is a staple in Nigeria and most parts of the world. Almost every home eats rice in a week. But the Nigerians had to suffer because of that. Now, that is a natural incident. The flooding was a natural thing. The technology that you deploy, how have you encouraged farmers to use that technology? And what are these technologies actually that you have been able to deploy? I mean, if you started in Nigeria and we hear that you're in Tanzania now, how have you helped farmers in Nigeria? All right, how many of them have you encouraged, and how can they join your team so they can produce even better? That's a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the compliment. In terms of the transition from being a lawyer and into what we're doing now, I mean, it's just part of the hustle. That's the beauty of the Nigerian spirit. It doesn't stop you from becoming whatever you want to be, no matter your background. So let's now get into the middle of the action. Yeah, right. You're right. I mean, natural disasters are things that we cannot control. So what we've done as a company to continue on that premise of technology as an enabler. If you do a Google search, I mean, why is Africa hungry? Why is Nigeria hungry? Why are people going through hunger in Africa? With all the attendant complements of having 65% of the uncultivated arable land is in Africa, with over 300 days of sunshine, with a youthful population. Why is Africa hungry? Why are we not exporting food? Why are we still importing food? These are statements that are very worrisome to a lot of people. But and if you do a simple Google search to find out, you see a lot of problems. You see, as far back as drought, famine, flood that you mentioned, insecurity. You see issues like as recent as the Ukraine crisis, the COVID-19. These are all problems that people attribute to why Africa is hungry. But as an organization and as people that are deeply concerned about solving the food crisis in Africa, we did a system analysis of the whole thing, through system thinking, and we discovered that the main culprit is underproductivity of the smallholder farmer in Africa. Mind you, the smallholder farmer in Africa produces 80% of the food we eat, and if that smallholder farmer that virtually feeds the continent is underproducing, then you definitely have a problem. You just be scratching around the surface. Why am I saying so? I'm not saying all those problems that we mentioned, insecurity, famine, flood, drought, COVID, we are not saying that they are not also problems. No, but they are what we call externalities. Because if you use like an onion layer and you keep on peeling them one by one, for instance, if there was no COVID-19, would the normal smallholder farmer in Africa or in Nigeria be producing at par with his with counterpart in let's say Holland or in Italy, or with a maize farmer in Edo State producing at par with his counterpart in nearby Zimbabwe? No. So we kept on asking ourselves, if there was no Ukraine crisis, would we have would our farmers be underproducing? No. So when we discovered that underproductivity is the problem, so we deep dive into, okay, what are the causes of this underproductivity? What are the fundamentals? And we discovered that there are 7 major topics in the life cycle of a smallholder farmer. There are 7 major touch points, and if you really want to improve the productivity of that smallholder farmer, you have to now dig into those 7 major touch points. And that's where we now develop what we call Farm Easy ratings. So what are those 7 major touch points? Number 1, at the beginning of the season, the smallholder farmer requires what we call land preparation. I'm happy that you're showing some mechanization on your screen. Land preparation means actually tractorization, using tractors to prepare land. If you're like me from the village, you basically don't obtain farmers going to the farm using hoes. In Africa, over 80% of smallholder farmers still use muzzle power to prepare their land. If you're using muzzle power to prepare your land, meaning you don't even have access to tools like to do soil testing, know whether this soil is suitable for rice or maize or potato or cassava. You are just going there out because this is what you inherited from your grandfather, and this is what you can do. And you use muzzle power to prepare that land. Assuming a farmer have access to mechanization, if you have 1 acre, that farmer can actually prepare 5 acres, and you cannot compare. And one thing about land preparation is the farmer that prepares his land mechanically and the one that prepares his land manually. Experts are of the view that the farmer that prepares his land mechanically will produce 50 times more than the farmer that prepares lands manually. So that's one. Number 2, it will also surprise you to know that almost 90% of farmers in sub-Saharan Africa plant grains, not wheat. They do not have access to high-yielding seeds. I don't know if you know the difference between planting grains and planting seeds.
Please tell us the difference, please. Yeah.
The grain is actually what they're supposed to eat. If you go to the village, after harvest, you see a lot of farmers keeping grains, keeping maize, for instance, against next season to plant. Those grains that are keeping are supposed to be eaten, not to be planted. They are supposed to have what we call high-yielding seeds, as in first-generation seeds, or what we call foundation seeds. Most farmers in sub-Saharan Africa do not have access to seeds. They plant grains. It's like using, if you take, for instance, my great-great-great-grandfather, if you go, let's say, 10 generations backwards to my great-great-great-grandfather, if you check his DNA and my DNA, you realize that maybe he is more African than I am because of maybe weather patterns, lot of eating, intermarriages, and so on and so forth. My DNA has been corrupted. That is exactly what happens when you plant a seed that's 10th generation, as against planting a first generation seed. So most farm developed economies like Europe and America, or even in Asia, and some parts of Africa like Zimbabwe, where they have a lot of mechanization going on, most of these farmers plant first generation seeds.
So let me interrupt your thoughts now. Let me interrupt you a bit now, but I hope you don't lose your line of thought. How then do they get the seeds as against the grains? How then do they get the grains to plant? Is it not from the plant itself?
No. The seed is there's a whole line of production going on. You produce seed. There are farmers in some other countries that are well organized. Even in Nigeria, we have the Seeds Council that is investing heavily into that. We have research institute. You are not supposed to plant grains. You are supposed to plant seeds. So I mean, the same way that you buy, for instance, in vegetables now, where if you want to plant carrot, or if you want to plant, let's say, spinach, you are not going to plant the leaf of spinach. We are used to that when it comes to such type of crops. But when it comes to cereals, most of our farmers, because of lack of access, we are talking about access now. They lack access to high yielding seeds, i.e., they don't have ways and means of accessing those production improving methodologies. So what we're doing with our technology is our farm easy operating system aggregate these farmers and give them access to such seeds. I'm tying the 7 touch points to what we are doing as a company to improve their productivity. Our farm easy operating system gives them access to high yielding seeds, meaning we on board, there are companies in this country that are into production of seeds, that are into marketing of seeds. But because they are smallholder farmers and most of them are in rural areas, they do not have access to these companies. And that is what technology does. Technology brings people together. It brings people closer, and it makes it easier for those that are looking for customers and customers that are looking for products to come together. So we created a kind of a marketplace through our farm easy operating system, and that is the role of technology there. So like you said, that I shouldn't lose my line of thought. Yes. I just talked about the second fundamental, which is access to high yielding seeds.
High yielding seeds. Okay.
Fundamental. The third fundamental touch point is access to good chemicals. This is also a very, very important touch point in the life cycle of a smallholder farmer. Let me break it down to you. When a farmer plants, his crop competes for nutrients with weeds, and he has attacks from pests and sometimes even insects. So he needs to have good chemicals, effective chemicals to kill those weeds that are competing. Weeds sometimes are complementary to your crop. Okay. There are weeds that are complementary to your crop. There are weeds that are destructive to your crop. Our farmers in Africa, for instance, in Nigeria, do not even have the know-how to distinguish between crop and weeds that are complementary to their crops and weeds that are destructive to their crop. For instance, rice farmers, azolla and seaweeds are complementary to the rice crop. They help the rice crop with nutrients, and they help the rice crop to even have more yield.
But so you call them azolla and seaweeds, right? Azolla and seaweeds. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just giving an example.
Okay.
So if a farmer, a smallholder farmer like the lady now in your picture, a smallholder farmer that is living in the rural area, doesn't know the difference between a destructive weed or a complementary weed. And 72% of the farmers in smallholder farming communities use outdated, low-quality chemicals that are destructive to their health, chemicals that are destructive to the environment, chemicals that are destructive to even the crop. Because people take advantage of them because they're in rural areas. You have unscrupulous business people that bring adulterated, contaminated chemicals, and because they don't know how, because they just want to save their farms, they apply those. So to give you another example that will hit home between for you to understand the importance of using good chemicals, it's like let's assume you go to a restaurant and you order a plate of amala and rishi, just one plate to just satisfy yourself, and then 10 of your very hungry friends descended on you, and eating from that same plate. Are you going to be satisfied after the meal?
Well, no, of course not.
Because what you've ordered is not enough to take care of 10 people. So that is exactly what happens when a smallholder farmer plants and he doesn't have access to good chemicals that will kill those weeds that are competing for nutrients.
All right. Well, we are pressed for time, but we still want to get all 7. You've only given us 3 now. Preparation of land, using technology instead of manpower. You talked about high yielding seeds. You've also talked about access to good chemicals. Let's have the rest, and then I want to ask you a question as it concerns rice now. Abakaliki rice, and the usual type of I don't know. There's another type of rice. Now, recently I got Abakaliki rice. I actually had to get from Ebonyi State, the actual Abakaliki rice, and as far as I am concerned, it tasted good. It tasted good, but it had a little burnt, seeds inside, but then why is it that Nigerians don't like such rice? Nigerians are always of the opinion that it is it is poorly made, and so Nigerians would rather eat imported rice as against the ones locally made, like the Abakaliki rice, for example.
And also to add to what he has just said, most of the times people would rather have the local rice with to cook it locally. They wouldn't want to use it to cook maybe like fried rice or all those kind of rice. They will say the local rice, the Abakaliki rice, should be for local rice. But then if you want to make fried rice, or then they rather use the imported ones. Why is that?
So let's hold on to these two questions. Let me rush you through the 7 fundamentals, because they're very important to your viewers. So I've mentioned 3. The 4th one is access to affordable, on-time delivery of fertilizer. We all know how important it is. In sub-Saharan Africa, most of our farmers, when they get fertilizer, even through government interventions, they get the fertilizers out of season. So it doesn't help them. It's like giving you food when you're not hungry. That's number 4. Number 5 is extension services, best agronomic services. These farmers do not have access to the know-how. They've been using age-old knowledge of how to solve problems. Nobody teaches them what to do. Nobody tells them. They've inherited this knowledge from their great-great-grandparents. They don't have access to best agronomic practice. That's number 5. Number 6 is mechanized harvesting, which is key. So if you give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right, and then you allow them to harvest manually. Let me give you context here. On each hectare of a rice farm, when you harvest manually, you are losing about 2.8 tons.
Whoa.
In the past 3 years, in Nigeria and Tanzania, if you go to our website, you see that we've harvested over 5,600 hectares right now.
Oh, yes.
And we've set almost 2 million kilograms of grains that can feed an extra 50 million people in Africa. That power of technology, as in mechanized technology, people. And the last point, which is the 7th touch point, is access to a structured market. Most of our farmers in Africa are subsistence farmers. When they farm, they just farm to eat. They are not farming with data. What we've tried to do with our farm easy operating system is to now connect them to what we call a guaranteed uptake. When they finish production, they can use what they want to use, and they can sell off in a very competitive manner through a structured market. So that's done with the 7 touch points that I told you. If you get it right with these 7 touch points, you definitely optimize the productivity of smallholder farmers, and you see them competing and feeding themselves and even exporting. Now back to your questions. You raised 2 questions regarding locally produced rice. Abakaliki rice, that why is it that Nigerians prefer foreign rice? I think it's a matter of mindset. It's a matter of psychology. Most of us, it's not just about rice. It's about everything that we do. It's about having a complex. I think it's a complex thing. We feel what is foreign is more. It's like genuine. It's more authentic than what is local. The same way that when I come and talk to you now, instead of you to believe in what I'm saying, people would prefer to see maybe a white colored. I don't have any problem with being white or whatever. Maybe they prefer to see a foreigner, or they prefer to see whatever. And that's the whole thing. It's the same way that when you buy a car, a locally assembled car like Innocent Motors, which does most of the knockdown vehicles that we're bringing from abroad, a lot of people to a knockdown vehicle instead of buying a brand new Innocent Motor. It's the same thing. But let me explain something about local rice and foreign rice.
All right, can we have that in less than a minute, please? Because we are pressed for time.
Wow, in less than a minute, that's going to be a miracle. What I'm saying here is local rice is more nutritious. Local rice, is, if it is processed properly, has more nutrient. So what you're buying as foreign rice is most times are expired rice, rice that have even depreciated in nutrient. That's why when you boil a local rice, people that don't know the difference, when you put so much water, it gets kind of muddy. It's because it is parboiled, it is fresh, it has so much nutrients compared to when you boil a foreign rice. So it's local, it is more nutritious. So that's just it. Because of the time factor that you mentioned.
All right, then we appreciate you for your time. We would have loved to get a whole lot more, because there's a whole lot more I see that you want to put out there. We'll put up this on our page so people can know how to reach your organization, so they can learn how to use the mechanized equipment to farm. We'll appreciate if that link is put up on our YouTube page so our viewers, our listeners can, take advantage of this opportunity. Well, big thanks to you. You want to say something?
But then I also want you to say something to the youth, to every youth out there who wants to go into farming. I mean, Yesowike has said that you should embrace farming. And you also mentioned that it's a very stressful thing. It requires manpower. What do you say to the youth out there who wants to engage in farming, but maybe they don't know how to go about it?
So this is a call to the younger generation. Agriculture is the future. It's the past and it's the future of Africa. If you're in agri now as a young man, you are missing out big time. This is a country, this is the continent of almost 2 billion people. According to the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, it's going to have a market size of almost 7 point something trillion by the year 2030. And agri is what's going to feed this continent and even export and feed the world. So I'm calling on our younger generation, especially people that are digital natives. My generation grew up to learn a lot of things about technology, but the younger generation are digital natives, and technology has a lot of role to play in agri today. So let them come in, solve the problems that we're facing in the sector, and take this thing to the next level. And I mean, if you're not in agri in Africa at the moment, you are missing out big time, and that's just my call. That according to Akiwumi Adewina, the president of the AFDB, said the next set of billionaires and even millionaires in Africa are definitely going to be from the agri sector. So take that to the bank. I think it's a very, very good encouragement there. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ibrahim.
Again, you can follow us on social media if they want to learn. Rice Africa is very active on social media, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Just Rice Africa with a K, and they will see a lot of resources that they can learn to key into what we are doing across the country. Thank you very much. Then.
Well, big thanks to you, Ibrahim Maigiri, who is CEO Rice Africa. Has a K there. Well, that's well. Thank you for educating
That's a good one.
part there. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll have business, entertainment, and then sports.